हरिः ओम् नमस्तर्वेभ्यः। कृदन्तप्रकरणस्य पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे दोदद्घोः इति सूत्रं स्वीकृत्य तत्र दद इति शब्दस्य विषये कश्चन शास्त्रार्थः अस्माभिः अधीतः। तत्र दद इत्यत्र विद्यमानः आदेशः दत्त इति तकारान्तः स्यात्, दथ इति थकारान्तः, नो चेत् सूत्रे यथा दृश्यते दद इति दकारान्तः, नो चेत् दध इति धकारान्तः इति प्रश्नं स्वीकृत्य तत्र पूर्वपक्षः अस्माभिः प्रारम्भे दृष्टः यत् सर्वत्र चर्त्वे कृते दत इत्येव रूपं सिद्ध्यति, अतः एतेषु चतुर्षु कोऽपि आदेशः क्रियते चेदपि न दोषाय। तदनन्तरं किञ्चित् विस्तरेण चिन्तनं कृत्वा सूक्ष्मरूपेण चिन्तनं कृत्वा तत्र त्रिषु पक्षेषु अस्माभिः दोषः दर्शितः ज्ञापितः। तत्र दत्त इति तकारान्तः आदेशः क्रियते चेत् दस्ति इति सूत्रेण उपसर्गस्य दीर्घादेशस्य आपत्तिः आगच्छति। दद् इति दकारान्तः आदेशः क्रियते चेत् रदाभ्यां निष्ठातो नः पूर्वस्य च दः इति प्रत्ययतकारस्य नकारादेशः उद्भवति। तदनन्तरं च दध इति धकारान्तः आदेशः क्रियते चेत् प्रत्ययतकारस्य झस्तथोर्धोधा इति धकारादेशः प्राप्नोति। केवलं दथ इति तत्र आदेशः एव उचितः इति अत्र निर्णयः। अस्मिन् विषये अस्माभिः काशिकाकारेण उक्ता एका कारिका अपि अधीता। तान्ते दोषो दीर्घत्वं स्याद्, दान्ते दोषो निष्ठानत्वं, धान्ते दोषः धत्वप्राप्तिः, थान्ते अदोषः तस्मात् थान्तम्. Out of the four adeshas, three adeshas were somehow proved to be invalid, and only one thakaranta adesha was proved to be valid, or at least it appeared like that. Having said that, कृदन्त प्रकरणस्य अद्य 85तमः पाठः। अस्मिन् वर्गे निष्ठा प्रत्ययोः प्रक्रियायाम् उत्तरपदाधिकार कार्यस्य सूत्राणि तथा च वर्णकार्यस्य सूत्राणि पठामः। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायम् अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। मुनित्रयं नमस्कृत्य तदुक्तिः परिभाव्य च वैयाकरण सिद्धान्त कौमुदीयं विरच्यते। निष्ठा प्रत्ययोः प्रक्रियायाः अध्ययनं प्रचलत् अस्ति। तत्र पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे अङ्गकार्यस्य सर्वाणि सूत्राणि सम्यक् रूपेण उदाहरणैः सह तेषाम् अध्ययनं कृत्वा अधीतानि। अद्य अग्रे गच्छामः। अष्टमः सोपानः उत्तरपदाधिकारकार्यम्। तत्र सूत्रद्वयं विद्यते। वस्तुतस्तु ढलोपे पूर्वस्य दीर्घोणः इति सूत्रं त्रिपाद्याः अनन्तरम् एव भवितुम् अर्हति, अतः तस्य अध्ययनं त्रिपाद्याः अध्ययनसमये कुर्मः। अतः इदानीम् एकमेव सूत्रं तत्र अवशिष्टं दस्ति इति सूत्रम्। अस्य सूत्रस्य अद्यतनवर्गे प्रारम्भे अध्ययनं भविष्यति। तदनन्तरं नवमः सोपानः वर्णकार्यं। तत्र यानि कानि सूत्राणि उपस्थाप्यन्ते निर्दिष्टानि सन्ति, एतेषां सर्वेषाम् अद्यतनवर्गे अध्ययनं भविष्यति इति अद्यतनवर्गस्य संकल्पः आशयः। प्रारभामहे। तत्र प्रथमम् उत्तरपदाधिकारे प्रथमं सूत्रं, नो चेत् एकमेव सूत्रम् अस्माभिः पठनीयं, दस्ति इति सूत्रम्। तत्र सूत्रं तु बहु लघु अस्ति, परन्तु केचन शब्दाः तत्र अनुवृत्तिरूपेण अपि विद्यन्ते। अतः प्रारम्भे इदानीं सूत्रं पश्यामः। 63124 इति दस्ति इति सूत्रम्। अस्मिन् सूत्रे कस्य कस्य अनुवृत्तिः भवति तत्र क्रमं पश्यामश्चेत् तस्मात् पूर्वम् इकः इति अस्ति, तस्मादपि पूर्वम् उपसर्गस्य इति अस्ति। एतयोः द्वयोः अत्र अनुवृत्तिः भवति, उपसर्गस्य तथा च इकः। तदनन्तरं किञ्चित् पूर्वं गच्छामश्चेत् तत्र ढलोपे पूर्वस्य दीर्घोणः इत्यस्मात् सूत्रात् दीर्घ इति अनुवर्तते। अतः आहत्य त्रयाणां शब्दानाम् अत्र अनुवृत्तिः अस्ति, उपसर्गस्य, दीर्घः तथा इकः। उपसर्गस्य इकवर्णस्य दीर्घादेशः भवति इति अत्र अस्य सूत्रस्य अर्थः। सूत्रार्थम् एकवारं पश्यामः। यदि कश्चन इगन्तः उपसर्गः, अत्र इकः अस्ति अतः इगन्तः उपसर्गः, वि इति उपसर्गः अस्ति, नो चेत् नि इति उपसर्गः अस्ति, प्रति इति उपसर्गः अस्ति, यस्मिन् उपसर्गे इक् वर्णः, इकारः नो चेत् उकारः, अनु इति अपि उपसर्गः अस्ति, उकारः नो चेत् इकारः अन्ते आगच्छति, इगन्तः उपसर्गः दा धातोः विधीयते। केवलं दा धातोः विशिष्टं सूत्रं। यदि कश्चन इगन्तः उपसर्गः दा धातोः विधीयते तथा च प्रक्रियायां दा धातोः कश्चन तकारान्तः आदेशः भवति तर्हि अन्तिम इक्वर्णस्य उपसर्गस्य अन्तिम इक्वर्णस्य दीर्घादेशः भवति। यथा दा धातु अस्ति, उपसर्गः अस्ति तत्र वि, तत्र क्त इति प्रत्ययः कर्मणि विधीयते। अस्यां स्थितौ दा इत्यस्य यः आकारः तस्य अच्च उपसर्गात्तः इति सूत्रेण तकारादेशः भवति। अच्च उपसर्गात्तः इदं सूत्रम् अस्माभिः पूर्वस्मिन् सप्ताहे तत्र अधीतम्। अच्च उपसर्गात्तः इति सूत्रेण यत्र उपसर्गः विद्यते तत्र दकारोत्तरः यः अकारः तस्य तकारादेशः भवति। तस्मिन्नेव समये अस्माभिः वीत, सूत, अनुत एतानि अपि उदाहरणानि दृष्टानि। एतेषु सर्वेषु उदाहरणेषु वि इत्यस्य वि इति भवति, सु इत्यस्य सु इति भवति। एतत् दीर्घादेश परिवर्तनम् इदानीं दस्ति इति सूत्रेण तत्र भवति। अत्र विशेषरूपेण प्रक्रियायां कर्मणिक्तः इति किमर्थम् उक्तं? तर्हि आदिकर्मणि यदि तत्र त प्रत्ययः भवति तर्हि विदत्तम् इति ह्रस्व इकारेण अपि रूपं साधु एव ज्ञेयम्। तत्र भाष्यकारेण अवदत्तं, विदत्तं, प्रदत्तम् इति कारिका पाठिता अस्ति। पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे अस्माभिः दृष्टा इयं कारिका। अनया कारिकया ह्रस्व इकारः अस्ति तत्र विदत्तं, नो चेत् ह्रस्व उकारः अस्ति तत्र उदत्तम्। एतादृशानि रूपाणि अपि साधुत्वं प्राप्नुवन्ति। अतः अत्र विशेषरूपेण कर्मणि इति निर्देशः क्रियते। कर्मणिक्तप्रज्ञा क्रियते चेत् दा इत्यस्य आकारस्य अच्च उपसर्गात्तः उपसर्गस्य उपस्थितौ तकारादेशः क्रियते। इदानीं पश्यन्तु, अत्र वि द त इत्यत्र तकारान्तः आदेशः अस्ति। इदानीं दस्ति इति सूत्रं प्रवर्तते। प्रक्रियायां दा धातोः तकारान्तः आदेशः भवति चेत् उपसर्गस्य अन्तिम इक्वर्णस्य दीर्घादेशः भवति। अस्यां स्थितौ अयम् उपसर्गः अस्य अन्तिम इकारस्य दीर्घादेशे कृते वि प्लस् द प्लस् त प्लस् त। इदानीं खरिच इति दकारस्य चर्त्वे तकारः वीत इति रूपं सिद्ध्यति। अनेन प्रकारेण पूर्वस्मिन् एव वर्गे वीत, सूत, अनूत, नीत एतानि यानि सर्वाणि रूपाणि अस्माभिः दृष्टानि। एतेषु सर्वेषु जायमानः अत्र दीर्घादेशः इदानीम् अङ्गकार्यस्य सोपाने न प्रवर्तते, अपि तु अग्रे उत्तरपदाधिकारस्य स्थाने, उत्तरपदाधिकारस्य सोपाने भवितुम् अर्हति। वि इत्यस्य वि इति कृते वीत इति भवितुम् अर्हति। अत्र कस्यचन प्रश्नः अस्ति, इक इत्यत्र ऋकारः अपि आगच्छति? अवश्यम् आगच्छति। अ इ ऊर्ण ऋ लुक् इत्यत्र ऋकारः अपि अस्ति, लुकारः अपि अस्ति, परन्तु ऋकारान्ताः उपसर्गाः न सन्ति, नो चेत् लकारान्तः उपसर्गाः न सन्ति। अतः इक इत्यनेन इकारः तथा उकारः एतयोः एव उपसर्गयोः, इकारान्तः तथा उकारान्तः एतयोः उपसर्गयोः उदाहरणानि दीयन्ते। तत्र कश्चन अन्यः प्रश्नः, वेर इज थर्ड तकार गोइंग? यू शुड बी लिसनिंग टू द क्लासेस. Everything has been explained in the previous class. There is a sutram that gets rid of the takara over here. That question was also there in the homework. You have to revise the courses before you attend the next class. So there is jharo jhari savarne ityanena takarasya lopah kriyate. If you would have done the homework properly, this question would not have come. Vita iti atra antimam rupam siddhyati. Now, having said all this, अत्र दस्ति इति सूत्रेस्य अयं यः अर्थः क्रियते, तकारान्तः इति अर्थः क्रियते, अनेन अर्थेन तत्र दत्त इति आदेशे दोषः सिद्ध्यति। So do dad ghoho ityatra, coming back to the point that we are, Shastra Vishay, we are discussing again and again as fragments here and there. Tatra do dad ghoho ityatra datta iti takarantah adeshah kriyate chet. This dasti sutra is the one that causes the problem. So V plus da plus idanim adikarmani kta bhavati yatha asmabhi vidattam iti rupam karniyam. तत्र आदिकर्मणि क्त प्रत्ययः भवति चेत् पुनरेकवारं दा इत्यस्य दो दद् घोः इति तकारान्तः आदेशः भवति. So if you want to generate the vidatta form, then in the previous class we said that acchu upasargaptah will not come because there is a clear indication in the bhashya in this context. So acchu upasargaptah iti sutramatra na pravartate, atha do dad ghoः iti takarantah adeshah. Assuming dad becomes takaranta, do dad ghoho ityatra takarantah adeshah bhavati. Asyam sthitau V plus datt plus ta. Same situation as over here. Instead of half the and half the, there is a full the and half the. However, it is still takaranta. Asyam sthitau upasargasya dirghadeshe krute V datta iti anishtam rupam bhavet. Ishta rupam tu vidatta iti asti. Ataha atra datta इति तकारान्तः आदेशः अनुचितः इति पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे अपि अस्माभिः सम्यक् रूपेण दृष्टम्. Having said that, I'm repeating this again and again because lots of interesting things are going to come up immediately. It turns out that Bhashyakara tries to change the meaning of the sutram dasti slightly in such a way that datta adesha in do dad ghoho can also be proven to be valid. Punarekvaram vadami. Dasti iti sutrasya idanim asmabhihi yaha arthaha pathitaha. Anena arthena tu do dad ghoho ityasya datta adeshaha anuchitaha eva. We are talking about two different sutras simultaneously. We are talking about dasti on one hand and do dad ghoho on another hand. The whole problem starts because in do dad ghoho, the takaranta adesha is to be considered invalid or is being considered invalid. Why is takaranta adesha being considered invalid? Because of the dasti sutram. What is the meaning of the dasti sutram? Da dhatoho takarantah adeshah kriyate iti atra arthah asti. Now what Bhashyakara says is, let's change the meaning of this dasti sutra slightly so that the takaranta adesha of do dad ghoho continues to become valid. In other words, dasti will no more create a problem in this particular prakriya. In order to achieve that, Bhashyakarena kimuchyate, yadi same description, yadi kashchana iganta upasargaha dadhatoho vidhyate, तथा च प्रक्रियायाम दा धातोः तकारादि आदेशः भवति. So Bhashyakara says instead of takaranta adeshah bhavati, let's change it to takaradi adeshah bhavati. So yadi kaschana upasargaha da dhatoः vidhiyate तथा च प्रक्रियायाम दा धातोः तकारादि आदेशः भवति तदा उपसर्गस्य अन्तिम इक्वर्णस्य दीर्घादेशः भवति. So the whole thing is retained exactly like that, except for takaranta adesha. Bhashyakara proposes that let this be takaradi adesha. What is happening because of this? Let's actually take a look at the prakriya where do dad ghoho sutram comes in the picture. Same rectangle which is present on the right hand side. We have V plus da plus adi karmanikta. Let me go to the previous slide. It's exactly the same thing. V plus da plus adi karmanikta. V plus datta plus ta. Do dad ghoho ityanena datta iti takarantah adeshah kriyate. Parantu idanim ayam adeshah takarantah asti. In the modified meaning of dasti, we expect a takaradi adesha. Therefore, V plus datta plus ta ityatra do dad ghoho iti takarantah adeshah yada kriyate tada dasti iti sutrasya prasaktireva nasti. The dasti sutram can only apply for a takaradi adesha what we are getting is the takaranta adesha, and therefore atra do dadghoho iti takarante adeshe krute dasti iti sutrameva na pravartate, which means that we can get the final acceptable form as vidatta, which means that do dadghoho iti takarantaha adeshah kriyate chedapi na doshaya. So what Bhashyakara is saying? Bhashyakara is saying, instead of takaranta adesha as we saw on the previous slide, let's change that adesha to takaradi adesha. As soon as takaradi adesha is the new norm, is the new rule, vidatta form can be derived even with the datta adesha in do dadghoho. Therefore, datta iti adesha api uchitaha. Now the problem over here is that Dasti, the original version in Dasti Sutram, there was a reason to write a Takaranta Adesha. If it would have been that simple, Panini would have himself given Takaradi Adesha. The reason why you want to do Takaranta Adesha is because in the V plus Da plus Karmanikta, this normal prakriya, अच्छ उपसर्गाप्तः इत्यनेन आकारस्य तकारादेशः क्रियते. So अच्छ उपसर्गाप्तः is anyway going to do the takaradesha of this a. So at this particular place, it is a takaranta adesha, and it is this place where dasti we wanted to use. Dasti iti sutrasya prayogah अच्छ उपसर्गाप्तः इत्यस्मात् अनन्तरम् अस्माभिः इष्यते. Understand this point once again. The whole reason why Dasti was created was to be able to use it after Achopasargataha. This additional rectangle on the right hand side is all side effect. Let's keep the side effect aside. Let's concentrate on the main primary use case. What is the primary use case? Achopasargataha iti akarasya takaradesha kriyate. That is the adesha done on the last letter. So this is still takaranta entity. And on this takaranta entity, we would like to apply the sutram dasti so that we can become dirgha. So the original reason, the original purpose of dasti sutram is to get to be applied, or we should be able to apply that after achopasargata. And if you consider the original purpose, takaranta is the only acceptable norm. As soon as you make it takaradi, what Bhashyakara is proposing is make it takaradi. And as soon as you make it takaradi, we get a problem over here. We cannot apply dasti at this point anymore. It is not a takaradi adesha at all. So understand this. What is happening? There is an original reason, there is an original scenario for which dasti was created takaranta. That takaranta dasti was causing a problem somewhere else in Dodadghoho Sutram, somewhere else. Now, in order to fix the problem that was occurring somewhere else in Dodadghoho, Bhashyakara just proposes that make that adesha takaradi. When you make that adesha takaradi, that other place definitely gets fixed, whichever was the side effect. But what you're doing, you're hampering the sutram just to support a side effect, and you're causing a bad effect, incorrect effect on the original version where the sutra was being applied. So look at the original form now. We are going to have V plus the plus A plus the. So that's da. A becomes ta. Achupasargaptaha iti akarasya takaradeshaha. At this place, the plus ta, you cannot apply dasti anymore because there is no takaradi adesha. It is takaranta adesha. Original definition of dasti was acceptable over here. New definition of dasti is not acceptable over here. And therefore, the only choice that we have is enter tripadi and do kharicha iti chartvam. So if there is nothing in between, tatra directly tripadyam gatva dakarasya takaradeshe chartve krute kharicha iti chartve krute ta plus ta iti siddhyati. Now at this point there is a takaradi adesha. You have a takaradi adesha over here. Unfortunately, it's too late. We have already entered tripadi. Is there a way to go back? We have already entered tripadi. Dasti Sutram probably won't or shouldn't see the Tripadi Sutram Kharicha, and therefore, even though Kharicha converts the to the, there is no way Dasti Sutram can see it. However, think about it. If there is no way Dasti Sutram can look at this transformation, then there was no purpose of making Dasti Sutra available in Ashtadhyayi. The primary purpose of Dasti Sutram, this is the crucial part of this argument. The primary purpose of Dasti Sutram is to be able to do Dirghadesha for Vita. There is no other purpose of Dasti Sutram. All this additional thing is a side effect. It's being meant, is some mental game that's being done. We already have a Dattha Adesha which is acceptable. Some mental games are being played. But the primary path in which the Dasti Sutram is applicable is the Upasargasya Dirghadesha. If we block Dasti Sutram from appearing over here purely on the account of Asiddhatva, then Dasti Sutram will become completely useless. You cannot have a useless sutram in Ashtadhyayi. Therefore, Vidhana Samarthyat, nochit Ashraya Samarthyat, Atra Tripadhyaha Sutra Anantaram Api Shashtadhyayasya Dasti iti Sutrasya Prayogaha Bhavitum Arhati Tatacha Takaradi Adeshe Prapte Takaradi Adeshe Agre Asti Ataha Upasargasya Dirgha Adeshe Krute Vita iti Ishtarupam atra siddhyati. Let's understand this once again. Instead of Takaranta Adesha, had it been Takaranta Adesha, life was completely easy. We just do Achopasargaptaha, convert this Upasarga to Dirghadesha because of Ta, and then finally do Kharicha. All the sequence was appropriate. Life was completely normal. However, here there was a problem in the side argument. We tried to fix that problem of the side argument by changing Takaranta to Takaradi, but that caused a problem in the original Prakriya. We cannot now do Dasti in the beginning. Fair enough, let's do Kharicha, and after Kharicha, if we cannot do Dasti, then Dasti becomes useless. Somebody is pointing, we have seen exactly same thing in case of Dhralope Purvase Dirghuna. That's a very nice observation. Dhodhe Lopaha, Dhralope Purvase Dirghonaha, Atororapluta Daplute, Hashicha. All these sutras are exactly applied in this way after Tripadi because of Ashraya Siddhatva, because of Vidhana Samarthya. The reason that Atororapluta Daplute or Dhralope Purvase Dirghonaha or Dasti, the reason why this sutram is given is because we want to apply them. If we don't apply Dasti here, then there will be literally no place in Ashtadhyayi where Dasti will be applied. Because understand, when the Prakriya gets fixed on the right side, there is no point of Dasti at all. When there was a wrong Prakriya, we had Dasti. But we fixed that Prakriya. We changed Takaranta to Takaradi. So now this green rectangle does not use Dasti. And now you are not using Dasti in the main flow. So you are neither using Dasti in the main flow, nor you are using Dasti in the side flow. Effectively, you are not using Dasti anywhere in Ashtadhyayi. The only place where Dasti Sutram in entire Ashtadhyayi can be used is to make the Upasargasya Dirghadesha. The sutra is very specific. Iganta Upasarga, Dadhato, and Dadhato ho Takaradi Adesha or Takaranta Adesha. All these conditions come up at the same time only in cases like Vidatta, Nidatta, Anudatta, and so on. So in all these cases, if you do not apply Dasti on the account of Asiddhatva, then Dasti will become completely useless, and therefore purely by Vidhana Samarthya or purely by Ashraya Siddhatva, we have to apply Dasti over here. Or let me phrase it different way. Purely on, say, Vidhana Samarthya or Ashraya Siddhatva, Dasti becomes a Siddha towards, Kharicha becomes Siddha towards Dasti. As soon as Kharicha is Siddha towards Dasti, Dasti can now see the transformation made by Kharicha. It can apply itself. It will cause the Dirghadesha of Upasarga and then do final form as Vita. Anena prakarena Dadhatoho Takaradi Adeshah kriyate chet Antima Varnasya Dirghadesham अन्तिमवर्णस्य दीर्घादेशः विधानसामर्थ्यात् खरिच इत्यस्मात् अनन्तरं क्रियते. Now somebody is asking, is there no other problem if dattha instead of that we did datta? So the answer is no. In the previous class we have seen all the problems. So the only problem when instead of dattha, if you have datta, the only problem is the dasti sutram. There is no other problem. The only problem that was dasti sutram has been very cleverly rectified by Bhashyakara. See how brilliantly these scholars think. So instead of takaranta, if you make takaradi, then the side effect is also nullified. We also get another valid adesha called datta. So what is now happening? Datta is also correct and dattha is also correct. Dattha was correct all the way from the beginning. Why is datta correct? Because the original version of Dasti Sutram is no more being considered. Original version was Takaranta Adesha. In the original version, Datta Adesha was a problem. But in the new version, we have Takaradi Adesha. So Datta Adesha is not a problem because it is not Takaradi. So Dasti will not come over there. But that takaraditva causes a problem somewhere else in the main flow. That has been circumvented, that has been sidelined by saying vidhana samarthyat kharicha iti sutram nochet ashraya siddhatvat kharicha iti sutram dasti ityasya krute siddham asti dasti ityasmat distyasya sutrasya prayogaha kharicha ityasmad anantaram bhavitum vi ityasya ikara dirghadeshe krute agre वीत इति रूपं सिद्ध्यति. Agre gacchamaha. So if this whole system is clear, let's actually understand the two meanings and the precise statements in the bhashya about this particular point. There are a few questions on the previous slide. I don't understand a couple questions. So is it achaha or achaha? I think it is what is it? Acha upasargataha. It is acha upasargataha. So I think somebody is pointing out the typing mistake over here. This is acha upasargataha, and I seem to have written acha double chakara. I'll get rid of it. Okay, so I'll fix that. Then there is one more question. What about asiddhatvam? I explained that like literally 15 minutes ago, or for 15 minutes. This asiddhatva is not applicable because of the ashraya siddhatvam or vidhana samarthya. So let's actually look at the Bhashyakara's argument, and before that, let's look at what Kashika and Kaumudi say in this context. So summarizing the whole argument, Dasti ityatra takarantaha adeshaha iti prathamaha pakshaha, takaradi adeshaha iti dvitiyaha pakshaha. Remember, don't confuse. The first paksha is takaranta. In that paksha, the usual prakriya is very easy, but there is a problem in datta adesha. On the other hand, if you do takaradi adesha, then the datta adesha for do dat ghoho is no more a problem, but the usual prakriya creates a small problem that has been sidetracked by vidhana samarthyat kharicha iti sutram dasti ityasya krute siddham. So let's summarize the two. तकारantah आदेशः इति निमित्तं स्वीकृत्य वीत इत्यस्य सरल रूपेण रूपसिद्धिः, परन्तु दोदद्घोः इत्यत्र दत इति ग्रहणं दोषाय, अतः अस्मिन् पक्षे दथ इति थकारान्तः आदेशः एव उचितः. On the other hand, if we follow Bhashyakara's argument and change takaranta to takaradi, takaradi adeshah iti nimittam svikritya त्रिपाद्याः अनन्तरं सपाद सप्ताध्याय्याः सूत्रस्य प्रयोगः तत्र करणीयः, अनेनैव वीत इत्यस्य इष्टसिद्धिः भवति. परन्तु एतादृशम् एकवारं कुर्मश्चेत् तत्र अग्रे दोदद्घोः इत्यत्र दत्त इति ग्रहणं न दोषाय. So obviously the second paksha is actually more powerful because it allows a variety of adeshas in dodat goho. It can allow datta adesha as well as it can allow datta adesha, and at the same time it can properly derive the forms like vit by considering vidhana samarthya or by considering ashrayat siddhatvam. So therefore, Kashika and Kaumudi in the in Dodadghoho, further in their commentary, which I have not explained yet, they actually make it clear, Dasti iti takaradau dirghatvam yadi kriyate tada tante api adoshaha. So Dodadghoho, in this particular sutram, when these commentaries are discussing four different choices, datta versus datha versus dada, first, they will say that datta is incorrect because of the usual interpretation of dasti. But now, later on, they will add that if you change the interpretation and follow what Bhashyakara is saying, then the interpretation will be takaradi. So, in this new interpretation, dasti iti takaradi adesha dirghatvam yadi kriyate, kasya upasargasya dirghatvam. Kutra takaradi adesha asti chet, tarhi tante api adoshaha. Tantah आदेशः दत्त इति आदेशः क्रियते चेदपि दोषः नास्ति. तदेव कौमुदीकारेण उच्यते तान्तः वा अयम् आदेशः. So he first says it is a thakaranta and then he says or you can give it takaranta. तान्तः दत्त इति तान्तः वा अयम् आदेशः न चैव विदत्नम् इत्यादौ उपसर्गस्य दस्ति इति दीर्घापत्तिः तकारादौ तद्विधानात्. तो दस्ति इत्यत्र तकारादिः इति अर्थः क्रियते चेत् विदत्तम् इत्यत्र उपसर्गस्य दीर्घापत्तिः न भवति इति अत्र आशयः. Let's quickly read Bhashyam. I've explained this multiple times, so let's just read it slowly and I hope you will follow it. As usual, the red color lines represent the Chhatra or the Purva Paksha. The blue colored lines represent the Acharya or the Uttara Paksha. प्रश्नः कथमिदं विज्ञायते दा इत्येतस्य तकारादौ इति आहोस्वित् तकारान्तः इति. This is in dasti. Understand, not in dodadghoho. This is in dasti. He is basically comparing the two pakshas. Is it the takaranta, the previous slide, the left part over here, or is it the takaradi, the right part over here? That's the comparison being done. कथमिदं विज्ञायते दा इत्येतस्य तकारादौ इति आहोस्वित् तकारान्त इति. Kinchataha, Acharya is careless, doesn't care. What difference does it make? Essentially, he has answers to both the pakshas, so he doesn't care about this question. Yadi vijñāyate takaradau iti, if you go to this particular paksha takaradau, nita vita ityatra na prapnoti. What the student is saying is, if you go to this takaradi paksha, you will end up over here. Student does not yet understand the process of vidhana samarthya or ashraya siddhatvam. Obviously, probably most of us never knew this before today. So the student stops over here and he says, Vitta, Nitta, Ityatra Dirghaha na bhavati, because you cannot apply Sapada Saptadhe Sutram after Tripadi Sutram. So he says, Takaradi Ityasmin Vishaye Vitta, Nitta, Ityasya Siddhau Doshaha. Yadi Vijñāyate Takaradau, Nitta, Vitta, Atra na prapnoti. Atha Vijñāyate Takaranta. And if you make it takaranta, sudattam pratidattam atrapi prapnoti. So he says, if you make it takaranta, in here he is assuming the datta adesha over here. In case of datta adesha, vidatta, pratidatta, sudatta, ityatra sarvatra dirgha adeshasya prasaktihi asti. Yathechasi tathastu. Bhashyakara says, well, whatever you want, you can have it. Astu tavat takaradau iti. Just choose whatever you want. Takaradi. Let's take this right side. Takaradi. Katham nita vita. He asks the same question. How can you derive nita and vita? Chartve krute bhavishyati. You do the chartvam. This is the chartvam. You first do the chartvam. Then you get a takaradi adesha. And because there is a takaradi adesha, upasargasya antima varnasya dirghadesha atra bhavitum arhati. The student asks, यदि तकारादि आदेशः असिद्धं चर्त्वं तस्य असिद्धत्वात् न प्राप्नोति किमुत्तरम् आश्रयात् सिद्धत्वं भविष्यति. Somebody is asking, can you explain once again what is ashraya siddhatvam? Ashraya siddhatvam purely means that a sapada saptadhyayi sutram can be applied after tripadi sutram, or tripadi sutram is siddha towards the sapada saptadhyayi sutram, because if you do not do such a siddhatva, then the sapada saptadhyaya sutram will be useless. The only acceptable place in a prakriya where a sapada saptadhi sutram can be used is after tripadi. You cannot apply a sapada saptadhi sutram anywhere, that particular sutram anywhere else. So for example, dasti sutram, there is no prakriya in Sanskrit grammar where dasti sutram can be used before kharicha. The only place where dasti sutram can be used is after kharicha. Now, having said this, if you still are hellbent on saying that this is an asiddhatva and I cannot use dasti because then it is a sapada saptadhi sutram, then eventually you will never get a chance to use dasti and dasti will become useless, because the only place where dasti can legitimately be used in the prakriya is after tripadi. So you have only two choices: either throw away the sutra by making it useless, or bend your rule of asiddhatva and add an exception over here. An obvious answer is that Panini won't make a useless sutram. Therefore, it follows that we need to bend the rule of asiddhatvam, or I would say we take it as an apavada over asiddhatvam. Asiddhatvat api tatra vishesha rupena asya sutrasya prayogah kriyate. Kharicha iti sutram dasti ityasya krite siddham asti. This is one step above or beyond asiddhatva. Kharicha is acceptable for our siddha towards dasti, because dasti can only be applied after kharicha. This is called ashrayat siddhatvam. The ashraya, the presence of dasti, is fully gated on application of kharicha. That's the ashraya. That's what Bhashyakara is saying. Asiddhan chartvam tasya asiddhatvat na prapnoti iti chhatraha ashrayat siddhatvam bhavishyati. This is the one line, very heavily loaded. We needed like 40 minutes to explain that single line. Ashrayat siddhatvam bhavishyati. That particular whole argument is acceptable because of ashrayat siddhatvam. And then he says athava, or you can take takaranta also. Athava punarastu takaranta iti. If you want to take takaranta adesha, then remember that the only acceptable format of do dat ghoho is dattha. On the other hand, if you want datta over there, then you take takara adi adesha. So it is basically some kind of trade off. If you want datta as well as dadda, if you want datta, if you want datta as well as dattha, both of them if you want as acceptable forms in do dat ghoho, then do takara adi adesha. If you're okay with saying that it should be only dattha, then you do takaranta adesha. So katham sudattam pradattam naitat takarantam tarhi takarantam. If you are interested in only takaranta adesha, if you are interested in this particular red colored box, this red color box gets generated because of takaranta adesha, and if you are putting questions about this red particular box, but you still want this to be takaranta, then change the do that go to takaranta adesha. That will itself fix it. So he is putting both the arguments in front of you, both the arguments he approves. You do whatever you use, choose whatever you want to choose. So let's take a quick look at the Kashika and Kaumudi formulations of this Dasti Sutram. We are still in the Uttarapadadhikara. That's where the whole thing connects. In the Uttarapadadhikara, the only Sutram that we are going to study or we are studying is Dasti. Da ityetasya yaha takaradi adeshaha. So in the Dasti Sutram, Kashika and Kaumudi, both of them accept the takaradi paksha given by the Bhashyakara. Both pakshas are acceptable. Bhashyakara agrees to both pakshas. Each has its own benefit and own trade-off. However, when it comes to Kashika and Kaumudi, both Kashika and Kaumudi accept the takaradi version of Dasti Sutram. Kimartham? The simple reason is, even if both of them are acceptable, takaradi iti vadamashe do dad ghoho ityatra datta tatha datta ubhayoho adeshayoho auchityam bhavitum arhati. Whether you do datta or whether you do dattha, both of them can be considered valid. The only thing you have to do is use a takaradi. That's what the Bhashyakara has told, and that's what Kashika and Kaumudi both seem to agree to. सो दा इत्येतस्य यः तकारादि आदेशः तस्मिन् परतः इगन्तस्य उपसर्गस्य दीर्घः भवति नीतं वीतं परित्रम and so on. Then he explains that this dasti sutram, when it comes in a takaradi flavor, it should be applied after chartvam. So achopasargaptaha iti antyasya yadyapi takarah kriyate tathapi chartvasya ashrayat siddham iti takaradihi bhavati. So first of all you do chartvam, then it becomes takaradi. So both terms will be there and then you can do dasti. And then he does dalakrutyam ikaha ityeva daha itikim ti itikim and so on. कौमुद्यामपि इगन्तस्य उपसर्गस्य दीर्घः स्यात् दादेशः यः तकारः तदादौ उत्तरपदे. He also takes the takaradi as the meaning. खरिच इति चर्त्वम् आश्रयात् सिद्धम्. Same thing has been explained. नीतं सूक्तम्. So here is the prakriya. Dudaye dane dan dane, four dhatus, do avakhandane deng rakshane. V plus da atra karmanikta, because we want to have the upasargasya dirghadesha form. V plus da plus karmanikta. First of all, a becomes ta achopasargaptaha, then the becomes ta kharicha, and then vidhana samarthyat or ashraya siddhatvat dasti iti atra dirghadesha bhavati. Atre jharo jhari savarane iti ekasya madhyatakarasya lopa, the middle takara will go away. Finally, vita iti atra antimam rupam siddhyati. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, so this basically captures the whole argument of Dasti Sutram. There is one question over here. Can we change the Sutra Sankhya of Dasti to put it after Kharicha? Well, if you change the Sutra Sankhya of Dasti, it will no more be in the Uttarapadadhikara. We would like to have Dasti Sutram in the Uttarapadadhikara. It is a Karya on the Purvapada in presence of the Uttarapada, and therefore this Sutram is retained in the original place. Also, when we have original version where it was the only acceptable form was Dattha Adesha, there was no problem in having Dasti Sutram in its original place. Therefore, we can still continue to keep it in the original place. Somebody is saying if you move Dasti Sutram to Tripadi after Kharicha, we might not have the Anuvritti of Dirgha. Well, maybe you can bring it from somewhere nearby, or you can just add Dirgha over there. But yeah, that is also one acceptable argument. If you just move it as it is, we might not have all those Anuvrittis, not just Dirgha, but we might not have all those Anuvrittis of Upasargasya, Dirghaha, Ikaha, all those Anuvrittis might not be there. You can modify the sutra to add those anuvrittis, but as I mentioned, it's not needed, and more important, it won't fit there. This is Uttarapadadhikara Karya, so it should be in the Uttarapadadhikara Aluguttarapade 6.3. Okay, there is a question over here. Is the segregation of Sapada, Saptadhyayi and Tripadi an idea of Panini or some other grammarian? Of course, it is an idea of Panini. It is one of the most brilliant parts of Ashtadhyayi to be able to divide it into Sapada, Saptadhyayi and Tripadi. Now, if the question is that is this original idea of Panini, or if whether there was such an asiddhatva in grammars before Panini, I do not know. Maybe this particular idea existed in some or the other format in grammars before Panini, or it may not. All that I know is it is definitely a brilliant idea that is present in Ashtadhyayi. Most likely it is attributed to Panini. So that completes the discussion of the Dasti Sutram, and therefore let's go back to our original slide. Do dad ghoho ityatra datta adeshaha, datha adeshaha, dada adeshaha or dadha adeshaha. We ended our previous class by saying that the only acceptable adesha is datha. Now we are slightly more enlightened, and now we know that datta is also an acceptable adesha. Dasti sutrasya kinchid artha parivartanam avashyakam. तत्र दकारान्तः इत्यस्य स्थाने दकारादिः इति अर्थः क्रियते। तकारान्तः इत्यस्य स्थाने तकारादिः इति अर्थः क्रियते चेत् दस्ति सूत्रस्य एतादृशः अर्थः परिवर्त्यते चेत् दत्त इति तकारान्तः आदेशः अपि उचितः। So now we have two adeshas, datta and datha, as acceptable adeshas, not the remaining two, the and the. Just give me 1 minute. Great. Now there is only one question that I have over here. All this change of meaning and then having ashrayat siddhatvam and all this complex circus, why did we do it? We did it so that datta adesha becomes valid. What is so great in that? Let's say that remaining three adeshas are invalid. Datta adesha is the only valid adesha. Why not say that? The only reason behind such, all the complex discussion is that this particular logical argument or this particular beauty, this particular complexity does not stop here. It goes ahead. It goes one step beyond this. It turns out that just like the way we had an argument with which takaranta adesha became acceptable, in the same way, there is an argument with which the dakaranta adesha and the dhakaranta adesha, both of them can become acceptable. There is something called as sannipata paribhasha in Vyakarana Shastra. Those of you who might have studied Subanta Prakaranam are already aware of sannipata paribhasha, but I will be using next half an hour or whatever 40 minutes to explain this particular aspect in details. So those of you who do not know, please pay attention. But there is a concept called sannipata paribhasha. Sannipata paribhasham ashritya, these two particular adeshas, the and the dakaranta and dhakaranta adeshas can also be proved to be acceptable. Now the whole picture is complete. We started with datha, we expanded our scope to datta, and now we are expanding our scope to the and the. Eventually, any of the four adeshas you do, it really doesn't matter. You will not have any problem. Thanks to the new meaning of the Dasti Sutram proposed by Bhashyakara and accepted by Kaumudi and Kashika, and thanks to this particular very interesting concept called Sannipata Paribhasha. So let's now understand what exactly is Sannipata Paribhasha. This is 86th Paribhasha of Paribhashendu Shekhara. Many of you might have already seen this. Sannipata vidhihi animittakah tadvighatasya. Iti atra paribhashayaha vakyam. Sannipata vidhihi animittakah tadvighatasya. Kaha arthaha? Sannipata. Sannipata means relationship. Mostly or in 99% of the cases in Vyakarana Shastra, what happens is a new particle or an adesha or an agama, whatever step happens in the prakriya, it happens because of some relationship between two entities on the previous step. Say, for example, there is some entity at the end of previous word and there is some entity at the beginning of the next word, and because of some kind of relationship, like there is an akarantam angam and there is, say, anunasikadi pratyayaha, or say there is some ikarantam angam and there is a kit pratyayaha. So some kind of relationship between the two particles will generate some adesha, some agama, something will happen. There are very few karyas in Ashtadhyayi that will be anaimittika. We do all these karyas all the way at the beginning of the prakriya. Dhatva-deshasaha, no naha, idito num dhatoho. All these karyas are anaimittika. They don't require any other external entity. They just look at shakara and it becomes sakara. They just look at nakara and it becomes nakara. There is no extra entity needed. But these are very handful of karyas which we do all the way at the beginning. Later on, when we enter the major chunk of the prakriya, almost every karyam that we do is a result of some relationship. Something in the purvam or something in the left side, something in the right side, some relationship will cause some adesha, some agama to happen. So that relationship is the sannipata. The relationship is the sannipata. The product of that relationship is the vidhi. Sannipatena jayamanaha vidhi. An adesha or an agama that is a result of some kind of relationship between two entities. That is a vidhi. How is that vidhi? Tadvighatasya animittakaha. That vidhi, that newly generated entity, whatever it is, adesha, agama, whatever it is, that newly generated entity will not participate in a prakriya which will destroy its creators, which will destroy the relationship of the entities from which it is generated. In a very crude language, a child who is born out of, say, a father and a mother will not do anything that will cause harm or that will destroy the relationship between the father and the mother. This is a normal laukika nyaya, what we see in the world. This particular paribhasha is exactly based on that nyaya. Sannipataha ityukte dvayoho sambandha. Relationship between two particles is called sannipata. Tan nimittaha vidhi. A vidhi that is generated because of the sannipata. If there would not have been the relationship, the adesha would not have had happened. So what is the adesha? It is caused because of that relationship. That adesha or that agama, whatever is the result of that relationship, that say result will not participate in any other step which will cause harm to that relationship. So etadrishaha vidhi animittakam. That vidhi does not participate in a prakriya. Animittakam. Which prakriya? Tam sannipatam yaha vihanti. Any additional steps. So for example, A plus B, there is an adesha called C over there. Say for example, a new agama, let's say a simple example, agama comes over there C. Now that C will not do anything further in the prakriya which will cause either A or B to go away. So tam sannipatam yaha vihanti, yaha ityukte yaha yat karyam vihanti tasya karyasya ayam vidhi animittakah. Upajivya virodhasya ayuktatvam. Whatever has been responsible for your prosperity, your growth, you don't go back and kill them. You don't become kritagna. You don't backstab them. Is a normal, acceptable behavior in the world. Based on this behavior, this paribhasha has been generated. That's what he says. Nyaya mula esha. Samanyam laukika nyayam anusritya yam paribhasha atra sthapita asti. द्वयोः पदार्थयोः सम्बन्धेन जायमानः विधिः तस्य सम्बन्धस्य विनाशार्थम् अग्रे कार्यं न करोति इति अस्याः परिभाषायाः आशयः. Let's take a simple example not related to the Kridanta Prakaranam, and then we will understand how it is used in the current context. Somebody is asking over here, is this paribhasha something like this, that one will not build the house near a river bank to avoid the flood? No, it does not mean anything like that. All that it means is exactly what you see on the screen. Do not apply your interpretations. If an entity, say when a father and a mother, from them a child is created, the child will not destroy the father or the mother. If a branch helps you to grow on a tree, you will not cut that branch and become krutagna to it. Whosoever has given you some good things, you will not do bad for them. That's exactly what this particular paribhasha means. Please do not try to translate it into using various phrases or various analogies or whatever. This is whatever this paribhasha means. I've exactly stated it over here. द्वयोः पदार्थयोः सम्बन्धेन जायमानः विधिः. if an entity is generated because of the result of two different entities, tasya sambandhasya vinashartham karyam na karoti. If you take a ladder and a tree and climb on the tree, then you will neither destroy that ladder nor destroy that tree, because your existence on the tree was because of the ladder and the tree. Similarly, a child will not kill father and mother because they were the reason of his existence. Exactly in the same way, two particles, when a new particle is generated out of them, that particle will not further participate in a prakriya that will destroy those two particles or the relationship between the two particles. Let's take an example and then it will be clear. Let's take an example of the number 100. शत इति संख्यावाचक शब्दः अस्ति, नपुंसकलिंगस्य प्रथमा बहुवचनं पश्यामः. Let's take the word shata in the napumsakalinga. When you apply a jasa pratyaya to this particular word, this is exact paribhasha given in this is the exact example given in Paribhasha Indushekara. When you apply jasa pratyaya to the shata word, jassa soho shihi ithenena shi adeshaha bhavati, shi sarvanamasthanam ithenena asya sarvanamasthana samnya bhavati, idanim napumsakasya jhalachaha ithenena atra angasya numagamah bhavati. Everybody should be familiar with the prakriya. This is very similar to what happens in the phalam phale phalani. So napumsakasya jhalachaha iti sarvanamasthane pare numagamah bhavati. Now understand this. How is this numagama created? This numagama is created because of the sutram napumsakasya jhalachaha. On one hand, there is an ajanta napumsakalinga word. Shata is ajanta and it is napumsakalinga. So that is on one hand. On other hand, there is a sarvanamasthana. E pratyaya is a sarvanamasthana. So you have two different entities on two sides. There is an ajanta napumsakalinga word on one side. There is a sarvanamasthana on other side. The relationship between the two caused the numagama. Numagama was happened because of the relationship between the ajanta word on one side, ajanta napumsakalinga word on one side, and the shi pratyaya or the sarvanamasthana pratyaya on another side. You get rid of its samnya and all that, finally it becomes na. Now at this particular point in time, e is the pratyaya, she or just, it's now e, and shatan is the whole anga. Understand, the numagama is happening for the anga. Yadagamas tadguni bhutas tadgrahanena griyante. So shata ityasya kritaha numagamaha shata ityaneneva sagriyate. Ataha, the whole anga over here is shatan. Therefore, what does E see? E sees that anga is shatan. How is that? It is a nakaranta anga. How is the word shata? It is a sankhyavachaka word shata. So shatan, which is now by ekadesha vikrutam ananyavat, shatan is also a sankhyavachaka word. So for a sankhyavachaka word shatan, which is a nakaranta word, the nakara has to be removed by shadbhyo luka. Sorry, the ikara has to be removed by shadbhyo luka. Consider another example that you are aware of, panchan or saptan or ashtan. Tatra sarvatra jasa pratyaya yada kriyate. Panchan plus jasa just goes away by shadbhyo luk. Saptan plus jasa just goes away by shadbhyo luk. So if you do not know the sutram shadbhyo luk, you can look it up on the website. Shadbhyo luka ityanena sutrena shat samyakat ityukte nakaranta sankhyavachaka shabdat vihitaha jas iti pratyayah lupyate tasya lopaha tasya luk bhavati. So shadbhyo luka ityanena jas pratyasya luk bhavati. Now here shatan is a sankhyavachaka word, it is a nakaranta word, therefore tasya shata iti samnya bhavati. Do not confuse this shata with the number 6. Shata is a vyakarana vishishta samnya over here. Who gets the samnya shata? Any sankhyavachaka word which ends in a nakara, like manchan, saptan, ashtan, navan, all these are nakaranta words which are sankhyavachaka words. All they get shata samnya. As soon as a word gets a shata samnya, there is a sutram called shadbhyo luka which will get rid of ikara. So understand this. Atra vastutaha shatan iti nakarantam angam asti. नकारांत संख्यावाचकस्य शब्दस्य श्नान्ता षट् इत्यनेन षट् इति संज्ञा भवति. So this whole thing becomes a षट्. As soon as this becomes a षट्, षड्भ्यो लुक इत्यनेन षट् संज्ञकात् शब्दात् विहितस्य जस् प्रत्ययस्य लुक भवति. So e is expected to go away. But hold on, what is happening? This e goes away because shatan becomes a shat samyak. If shatan is not a shat samyak, e will not go away. Shatan becomes a shat samyak, so e goes away. Why does shatan become shat samyak? Because it is nakaranta. Understand this. Nakaranta sankhya-vachakanam eva shat samya bhavati. Eka, dvi, tri, these are not called shat. Only spanchan, saptan, ashtan, navan, these are called shat. So nakaranta shabdasya shat iti samnya bhavati. Understand this once again. E is going away. Why E is going away? Because shatan is shatta. Why is shatan shatta? Because nakara is present at the end. Who gave birth to this nakara? E itself gave birth to this nakara. Didn't we say 5 minutes ago that adantam angam tatha cha sarvanama sthana samyakaha pratyayah etayoho sambandhena nakaraha tatra siddhyati. So the existence of the nakara is attributed to the relationship between the shatta and e. Now what is happening? As soon as nakara comes, shatan is becoming shata samyaka. As soon as it becomes shata samyaka, it tries to kick out, it tries to get rid of ikara. This exactly is against the sannipata paribhasha. The numagama, which is caused because of the sambandha between shata and e, cannot do anything that will destroy the sambandha. In other words, numagama cannot get rid of e. That's exactly what we are saying. Etadrishaha luk kriyate chet. We definitely get a luk by shadbhyo luk. So there is definitely a prapti of the removal of ikara. Parantu etadrishaha luk kriyate chet numagamasya karanaswarupaha sambandhaha vinashrati. What kind of sambandha? Ajantat napumsakalingat vihitaha sarvanamasthana samnikaha pratyayah. This is the relationship. Ajantat vihitaha sarvanamasthana samnikaha pratyayah, that goes away. This sambandha cannot be destroyed, or at least the num will not participate in that destruction. If it is happening by some other thing, num can't help. But what num is saying, I am born because of the relationship between shata and e. Therefore, I will not do anything which will destroy shata, or which will destroy e, or which will destroy the relationship between the two. But that's exactly what was appearing over here. Therefore, Na says that even though I am, shatan is a shatta samyaka, even though there is a sutram shadbhyo luka, I will not participate in that. I will not get rid of ikara. Sannipata paribhasha is the one which will actually block. I will follow the sannipata paribhasha is what it says. Ataha sannipata paribhashaya ayam luk atra nishidhyate. And then further prakriya happens and you get shatani as the final form. So had there not been sannipata paribhasha, there was a problem of this ikara going away. That's the power, that's the crux of sannipata paribhasha. What is sannipata paribhasha doing? Dvayoho padarthayoho sambandhena nutana padarthaha yatra siddhyati tatra saha nutana padarthaha agre tasya sambandhasya vinashartham na pravartate. That's exactly what is happening. Shata and e, the relationship between them was creating the particle na. Now this particle na will not participate in the destruction of ikara, even though there is a sutram called shadbhyo luka for that. That is how the final form shatani can be generated with the just pratyaya remaining intact over there. With this paribhasha in mind, let's now try to apply it for the remaining two adeshas. So we have dad ghoho and we have dad ghoho. Ityatra dakarantah adesha तथा च धकारान्तः आदेशः. Now pay close attention. In this particular paksha of dakaranta adesha, da ityasya dad iti adesham kurmaschet अस्माकं तत्र चिन्तनं पूर्वपक्षः कः आसीत् रदाभ्यां निष्ठातो नः इत्यनेन प्रत्ययतकारस्य नकारादेशः भवति. So the pratyaytakara will become nakara, and then this the will also become na, and the final form will be the na. That was the objection. Now look at this. Why was the da converted to the? Da was converted to the because of takaradi kit pratyaya. So one of the particles in that particle, so one particle was obviously da, which is itself getting converted. The second particle or the ashraya or the nimitta of this whole process was takaradi kit pratyaya. Now this dada adesha, which is result of the takaradi kit pratyaya, which is result of the existence of takaradi kit pratyaya, will it do anything that will destroy the takaraditva of that pratyaya? Definitely not. We apply Sannibhata Paribhasha over here. Pratyaya was takaradi, that is the reason why dada was created. If the pratyaya would have been kakaradi, pakaradi, makaradi, dada was not possible. Dada was created because of the takaraditva of that pratyaya, and therefore dada will not backstab that takaraditva, will not do anything which will destroy the takaraditva, and therefore even when radabhyam nishthato nah sutram is there, still if you apply that, ta is becoming na. Because of whom? Because of the dakaramta dhatu. Radabhyam nishthato nah requires dada to participate in the prakriya. Only when there is a dakaramta dhatu like chida, bhida, only in that case the ta will become na. So dada will be forced to participate in this prakriya, and dada will not agree to that thanks to Sannipata Paribhasha. So what will dada say? I am born out of the takaraditva of this pratyaya. I will not do anything that will destroy the takaraditva of this pratyaya. Therefore, radabhyabhinishtato naha, even if that sutra exists over there, it cannot be applied. Dada ityasya dakaratvam ashritya pratyayastha takarasya nakaradesha kriyate chet dada adeshasya nimittameva vinashyet. Dada, if dada is dakaram, when we say dada is dakaramta, if that induces radabhyam nishthato naha to act, that will kill the takaraditva, which in other words dada adeshasya nimittam vinashyet, that is not acceptable according to Sannipata Paribhasha. And therefore if we means what? We must employ Sannipata Paribhasha over there. Sannipata Paribhasha will block the application of radabhyam nishthato naha. We traverse all the way till kharicha, change the to ta, that's acceptable because it's not touching the pratyaya at all. Change the to ta by kharicha, add everything to get that ta. So when we have dada iti adeshaha, tatra pratyaya takarasya takaraditvam na vinashyati iti data ittinena nishchayah kriyate. Similarly, if you go on the right hand side, when the dha iti dhakarantah adeshah kriyate, tatra asmabhihi nirdishtah samshayah prashnah kaha asit, tatra jhashos tathorthodha ittinena pratyayatakarasya dhakaradeshasya apattihi agacchati. Again the same argument. Why is pratyatakara becoming dhakara? Because of the jhashanta dhatu. The dha is a jhashanta dhatu. Because of the jhashanta dhatu, this particular transformation is happening. On this particular transformation, the pratyayata becomes dha. But that's destroying the property of the takaraditva. So the dha adesha will not participate in that. The dha adesha will say, I will not do anything which will convert the pratyaya to dhakara. Pratyatakarasya dhakaradeshasya tatra vidhanam na bhavati yataha etadrishena vidhanena pratyayasya takaraditvam eva vinashyet. Ta iti pratyaya moolarupena takaradhi asti. saha dhakaradi bhavet, that particular transformation, the transformation can happen, but dadha will not participate in it. And this particular sutram, jashas tathor dhodha, requires dadha to participate. So dadha will say, I will not participate in a process that is killing the takaraditva. Now there is no other sutra that will convert ta to dha, and therefore jashas tathor dhodha is not applied, ta does not become dha, ta remains ta as it is. Eventually dadha plus ta ityatra khari chaityanina chartve krute data plus ta datta iti antimam rupam siddhyati. So that's what we say. Dadha ityasya dhakaratvam ityukte jashantatvam ashritya pratyayastha takarasya dhakaradeshah kriyate chet पुनरेकवारं same argument दत आदेशस्य निमित्तम एव विनश्येत्, and therefore सन्निपात परिभाषाम् आश्रित्य अत्र नकारादेशः अपि न करणीयः, धकारादेशः अपि न करणीयः, अतएव दद उत दध इति आदेशः क्रियते चेदपि नैव दोषाय, and therefore the final two adeshas are also acceptable. In this way, datta, datha, dada, and dadha, all four versions of do, dad, go are completely acceptable. That is the chaturvidha adesha sangatihi. All four adeshas perfectly find their place in this particular sutram. Let's take a look at discussion of Kashika and Kaumudi. Do, dad, go da इत्येतस्य घु संज्ञकस्य दद इति आदेशः भवति तकारादौ किति प्रत्यये परतः. We are talking not dasti, we have done with dasti, we are not talking about do dad gho, the sutram from the Angakarya. It's written over here in the step of the seventh step of Angakarya, all the way 7446, I think. Here do dad gho, this is the sutram that we are looking at the commentary once again. Half of the commentary of this sutram we had looked at in the last class. Let's look at the remaining part of that particular commentary. Do dad gho da ityetasya ghu samnikasya dat iti adeshah bhavati takaradau kiti pratyaya paratah. He gives some examples and then he says the first step ayam adeshah thantah iti ishyate. This adesha should be thakaranta. He also gives that beautiful karika. Tante dosho dirghatvam sya dante dosho nishthanatvam dhante dosho dhatva praptis thante doshas tasmat thantam. And then he puts the uttara paksha. Yadi tu dasti iti takaradau dirghatvam tada tante api adosha. The first datta tanta adesha, that problem is being removed by rephrasing the sutra dasti, the first part of today's class. Danta dhantayoho api sannipata lakshano vidhi nimittakam tadvighatasya iti natva dhatve na bhavishyatah. Why? Because natva will kill the takaraditva of the pratyaya. Dhatva will kill the takaraditva of the pratyaya. But it was the takaraditva which is causing these dada or dadha adeshas. So they will not participate in the natva or dhatva. अतः संदांत धान्तयोः अपि सन्निपात लक्षण विधि अनिमित्तकं तद्विघातस्य इति नत्वधत्वे न भविष्यतः इति न दोषः. Let's read Kaumudi. Gu samnyakasya da ityasya dath syat tadau kiti. So again, first he puts the normal paksha of dath. Chartve krute datta ghoho kim datah. All the dalakrutyam is done. And then he puts all the other pakshas. Tantaha va ayam adeshaha. You can take it datta as tanta also. Tantaha va ayam adeshaha na chaivam vidattam ityadau upasargasya dasti iti dirghapattihi tada takaradau tadvidhana. So vidattam ityatra dasti iti sutrena vidattam iti bhavati iti na vaktavyam. Kimartham tatra dakaradi iti arthaha kriyate. Kutra dasti iti sutre. All sutras are being intermixed, interlinked over here. Extremely crucial that you take a pen, paper and work this out after today's class. Extremely involved Shastra Vishaya. So he says, na chaivam vidattam ityadau upasargasya dasti iti dirghapattihi takaradau tadvidhanat. Then he goes to the remaining two adeshas. Danto va dhanto va. So it can be dada, it can be dadha. Nacha dantatve nishthanatvam dhantatve jhasastathoho iti dhatvam shankyam sannipata paribhasha virodhat. So sannipata paribhasha will block the nakara desha of the pratyaya. it will also block the dhakaradesha of the pratyaya, eventually making it possible to have any of the four adeshas. So when all these intermediate things are completely blocked, the only solution that we have is whatever is presented on the slide. This is from the previous class, that da plus da, even it becomes datta, eventually it becomes datta. Tha, anyway we know it will become datta. Dada, dada plus the ityatra रदाभ्याम निष्ठातो नः पूर्वस्य चः इति न प्रवर्तते सन्निपात परिभाषा विरोधात्. Virodhat in the sense, if you apply that, it will cause problem with sannipata paribhasha, so we don't apply it. So then takarasya chartve takaradeshah datta iti rupam. Similarly, dadha plus ta ityatra takarasya dhakaradeshah na pravartate sannipata paribhasha virodhat. Therefore, dha will become ta, eventually will form datta. And therefore, the grand conclusion is that do dad gho ityatra datta datha dada dadha eteshu कः अपि आदेशः क्रियते चेत् न दोषाय इति अत्र निष्कर्षः. Let's take a quick look at the summary. We started by saying that we had three dhatus, dudai dane, dan dane, and deng rakshane. Etesham angasya nishtha pratyoho parayoho kim bhavati. So initially in the previous class, we had two different choices. Ajantaha upasargaha nasti ched datha iti adeshaha. Ajantaha upasargaha asti ched acha upasargattaha iti ta adeshaha. So pavatta, vita, pratta, and upasargaha nasti ched datha iti adeshaha. Let's actually go to the flowchart appearing all the way at the beginning of the previous class, and then this will become even more clear. We are comparing do, dat, gho, and achu upasargataha. So we are talking about three dhatus. For all these three dhatus, if there is no upasarga, then do, dat, gho. If there is upasarga, then achu upasargataha. That's what we are saying. Ajantaha upasarga nasti chet datha, ajantaha upasarga asti chet ta ityadeshaha. So that was the prakriya part of the whole thing. Now comes the shastra part. Do dat gho ityatra datha इत्यस्य स्थाने दत दद दध त्रिविधम आदेश क्रियते चेत् किं किं भवति. दत आदेशः क्रियते चेत् दस्ति इति सूत्रेण उपसर्गस्य अनिष्टः दीर्घादेशः भवति इति पूर्वपक्षः. परन्तु दस्ति इति सूत्रे तकारादिः अर्थः स्वीक्रियते चेत् सः दोषः निर्गच्छति. अतः दत आदेशः अपि उचितः इति भाष्ये उक्तः उत्तरपक्षः. Second point, in fact second and third are just the same. दद इति आदेशः क्रियते चेत् रदाभ्यां निष्ठातो नः पूर्वस्य च दः इति सूत्रेण प्रत्यय तकारस्य नकारादेशापत्तिः इति पूर्वपक्षः. परन्तु तत् सन्निपात परिभाषा विरोधात् उपेक्ष्यम्, टू बी इग्नोर्ड. अतः दद आदेशः अपि उचितः इति उत्तरपक्षः. सेम थिंग, जस्ट द सूत्र रिफर्स. झषस्तथोर्धोधा इति सूत्रेण प्रत्यय तकारस्य धकारादेशस्य आपत्तिः आगच्छति इति पूर्वपक्षः. परन्तु तदपि सन्निपात परिभाषा विरोधात् उपेक्ष्यम्. अतः दध इति आदेशः उचितः इति उत्तरपक्षः. In this way, a single sutram gives a lot of food for thought for prakriya as well as for shastra. So somebody is saying there is this is. So if sannipata paribhasha is there, then nimittapaye naimittikasya apayah nyaya is never needed. So nimittapaye naimittikasya apayah is actually completely different. All that it says is that when the nimitta is reversed, apaye ityukte reversed, not removal. When nimitta is reversed, the original entity, whatever, the original entity also gets reversed. So for example, in tha, the nimitta shakara goes away, so tha becomes tha. Whereas what sannipata paribhasha is saying is that the entity will not cause a problem in the convert or will not help in the conversion of the nimitta. Somebody else might definitely convert the nimitta. So understand this point. We are not saying that the nimitta will never change. The nimitta can definitely change. All that we are saying is the product of that nimitta, the offspring will not cause a change there. Maybe somebody else causes a change and that offspring cannot control it or cannot have, I mean, it cannot do anything on that point. But just the result of that particular relationship, that specific result will not destroy it. That's completely different than nimittapaya nimittikasya paya. Anyway, so this completes the discussion of Uttarapadadhikara Karyam. One full class was required. The next step is Varna Karyam. Now, if you look at all these sutras, and if there is even one sutra that you are not aware of, then you are in the wrong class. Lopo vyorvali iko yanachi echo yavayavaha ad gunaha ette dhatyutsu prad uha udha udhi eshyeshu upasarga dhruti dhatau engif pararupam akassavarne dirgha. If you are not aware of even one sutra in this list, you should start attending Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi and not come for the Kridanta. So in the next particular section, section number 9 on Varna Karyam, all that I have is all the slides are presented. They are all for your self-study. Lopo vyorvali tatra udaharanani dattani santi, and all this has been taught in class number some 24 or 23. I had also sent an email to revise those classes. So everything is same. There is nothing new over here. So you have Lopo vyorvali. One point in to Lopo vyorvali is vakara yakarayoho lopaha bhavati iti uchyate. Vakara yakarayoho tatra kevalam yakarasyeva udaharanaनि drishyante. Vakara asti chet shvo shudanunasike chaityanena ut iti adeshaha bhavati. So because it is blocked in the angakaryam, varnadangam baliyaha ityanena tatra angakaryasya sopaneva tatra parivartanam bhavati. Ataha vakarasya nishtha prakriyayam lopo vyorvali ityasya udaharanani na drishyante. Ataha sarvani yakarasyeva udaharanani atra dattani santi. Yantavantadesha echo yavayavaha. Echo yavayavaha will apply when there is a guna. You can have an akit bhava of the pratyaya that will give a guna. As soon as you get a guna, you have ayadesha. So echo yavayavaha. Iko yanachi can be applied when you have ut adesha by chvo shudanunasike cha. So ut iti adesha. E plus u tatra sarvatra iko yanachiti bhavati. Some examples of ruddhi ekadesha. Dhav ityatra punarekvaram ut adesha asti chet etyedhatyutsu iti ruddhi ekadesha bhavati. Tatra vartikamapi asmabhi drishtam. Pra ityasmat vah plus kta ityatra pla plus udha iti krute praudha iti siddhyati. This is only for praudha. So for ktavatu pratyaya it will still be prodhavat and not praudhavat. अर्थवद्ग्रहणे नानर्थकस्य ग्रहणम् इति परिभाषाम् अनुसृत्य ktavatu प्रत्ययस्य विषये अत्र सामान्यः गुण एकादेशः भवति. सो अत्र ऊढ इति केवलं शब्दः अस्ति. अनेन शब्देन ऊढवत् इत्यस्य निर्देशः न भवति. अतः प्र प्लस वह प्लस क्त इत्यस्य प्रक्रियायां प्रौढ इति सिद्ध्यति. परन्तु ऊढवत् इति अस्ति चेत् प्रोढवत् इति सामान्यरूपेण गुणं कृत्वा रूपं सिद्ध्यति. So these are all the varna karyas that will happen. Lopo vyorvali and echo yavayavaha, iko yanachi, and so on. These are all the karyas that will happen inside the anga or between the anga and the pratyaya. And then you have a bunch of karyas between the upasarga and the dhatu. So avarnanta upasarga asti chet tatra kim kim bhavati. Akas avarne dirgha iti bhavitum arhati. Ad gunaha upasarga dhruti dhatu engi pararupam etyedhatyutsu. Few more karyas. There is akasavarne dirgha, iko yanachi. So if it is akaranta upasarga or akaranta upasarga kim bhavati. Ikaranta upasarga asti chet kim bhavati. Ukaranta upasarga asti chet kim bhavati. So all these things have been demonstrated. There is nothing new over there. Please, I mean, you shouldn't even need to read any of this, but if you want, you can revise this on your own. So that's it, I think, for today. Very heavy loaded class. Please watch this, specifically though the Ghoho aspect. Somebody is asking a question over here in the previous sutram. Sorry. Should it be virodhat or avirodhat? Somewhere over here. Let me just go to that slide. Sannipata paribhasha virodhat or avirodhat? It is virodhat. Tad sannipata paribhasha virodhat upeksham. Upeksham means to be ignored. Why should it be ignored? Why should this transformation be ignored? Because if you use this transformation, it will be against sannipata paribhasha. So if you use the transformation by jachastutor dodha, or if you use the transformation by radabhyam nishthatanaha purvasya chadaha, it will be against the sannipata paribhasha. So sannipata paribhashayaha virodhat etat upeksham iti arthah asti. There is a question, actually a very good question. Dada and dadha, are these adeshas acceptable if you don't accept the sannipata paribhasha? Very nice question actually. So the question says that if I don't agree to sannipata paribhasha, can I say that dada is wrong and dadha is wrong? Because dada and dadha were acceptable only when sannipata paribhasha comes in the picture. If I'm not accepting, or if I don't agree to sannipata paribhasha, then dada will no more be valid and dadha will no more be valid. Well, you can't really say that. It is not in your hands to accept or reject a paribhasha. There is a sannipata paribhasha, you have to accept it. It is as if saying I don't believe in a rule written by Panini. So paribhashas are as important or as valuable as rules written by Panini. So you have to accept sannipata paribhasha. There is no choice. It is not a vaikalpika paribhasha. So you have to accept sannipata paribhasha, and therefore dada adesha is also acceptable. Dadha adesha is also acceptable. Now there is a question on the top of it. Then why does Kashikakara write over here ayam adeshaha thantaha ishyate? He is putting the purva paksha, or he is putting the simple version first. So ayam adesha thantaha ishyate means this adesha is expected to be thakaranta. It does not mean ayam adesha thantaha eva ishyate. So then he clearly makes it clear, isn't it? Ayam adesha thantaha ishyate, that's first paksha, and then tante api adoshaha danta dhantayoho api adoshaha. So he's keeping on putting further pakshas again and again. The first and the most obvious paksha is thanta. That's what he's saying. Ayam adesha thanta ishyate. So ayam adesha thanta ishyate, this statement does not imply that he is not agreeing to sannipata paribhasha. This statement implies that even for introductory students of grammar where sannipata paribhasha is not yet been introduced, thanta can be an acceptable adesha. That's exactly what we all were in the previous class. So till previous class, we had no idea that this sannipata paribhasha could play some magic over here. So for all of us, balaha, thanta was the only acceptable adesha. Only when we go ahead in the whole process, we say, okay, dhanta and danta are also acceptable adeshas. Okay, so abhyasam pashyamaha, actually very simple and descriptive abhyasa today, all the way at the bottom of the screen. First question, do dadghoho ityasya sutrasya chaturvidha adesha sangatim purvottara pakshayoho sahayena vivrunuta. So all four adeshas, what is the purva paksha and what is the uttara paksha? Please write down these on your own. Shastra questions have to be written down in Sanskrit so that you get hold over those concepts. So do dadghoho ityasya sutrasya chaturvidha adesha sangatim purvottara pakshayoho sahayena vivrunuta. And second, upasarganam nishtha pratyanta shabdaihi ach sandhihi kaihi prakaraihi bhavitum arhati tat sodaharana vivrunuta. So that's basically the last two slides of today's class. Upasarganam prayogaha. So upasarga and krudanta, this slide upasarga krudantayoho varnakaryam, and next slide upasarga krudantayoho varnakaryam. So you have to explain, everything is there in the slides, you just have to explain it in your own words. So upasarganam nishtha pratyanta shabdaihi ach sandhihi kaihi prakaraihi bhavitum arhati tat sodaharam vivrunuta. So these two questions, please sign up for the homework. I think for last class also some slots are empty, and the slots of this class, please sign up for this homework. We will there is no homework discussion this week. There will be homework discussion next weekend, Saturday, as usual. There is a question that, let me just take a look. We have learned sannipata paribhasha is sometimes anitya. So yes, all the way, that's actually a very bad place for teaching sannipata paribhasha. All the way in the beginning of shabda prakaranam, when we start chaturthi ekvachan of Rama, nyer ityanena sutrena yakaradeshe krute tatra supicha iti dirghadeshaha bhavati, that actually is against the sannipata paribhasha. So Dikshita teaches sannipata paribhasha over there. He also teaches it is anitya. So everything is fed all the way at that place. It's actually, in my opinion, a very wrong place for teaching sannipata paribhasha. But anyway, yes, Sannipata paribhasha is actually anitya, but anytime when you say a paribhasha is anitya, you have to resort to commentaries on where it is anitya. So all paribhashas by default are nitya only if the commentaries say it is anitya. So specifically, for example, Rama shabdasya chaturthi ekvachanasya रूपे ङेर् यः इत्यनेन अदन्तात् अङ्गात् विहितस्य ङे प्रत्ययस्य यकारादेशे कृते तत्र सः यकारादेशः अदन्तत्वमेव विनश्यति, तत्र दीर्घादेशः भवति सुपि च इत्यनेन. So how is that justified? Because of kashtaya kramane. So kashtaya ityatra kashtaya iti chaturthi ekvachanasya prayoge dirghadeshah acharyena tatra pakhitah asti. That is a justification of the fact that atra sannipata paribhasha anitya asti. But if you say anitya, you should only apply it, you should only avoid it in the places where commentaries say it is anitya or commentaries say it should not be applied. Otherwise, you should always apply it when you are doing prakriyas on your own. Okay, so there is one more question. Let me take it. Does it mean that the application of sutras is like interpreting the laws? Well, application of a sutras is more like parjanyavat. So it will always apply wherever there is a scope. So if there are dark clouds in the sky, it will rain irrespective of whether it is land, whether it is sea, whether it is river, whatever. So if there is a scope of application of the sutra will apply. In some cases, we don't want that. In those cases, commentaries will explicitly say that you don't want to apply that particular sutram. We have to respect the commentaries over there. Otherwise, if the commentaries don't say anything, you basically apply. So taking example of Sannipata paribhasha, for example, there will be explicit places where Sannipata paribhasha has been documented to be anitya. Except for these cases, you should continue applying Sannipata paribhasha everywhere. That's exactly what we have done in this case. So that's it, samapayamaha. So what we will do tomorrow is enter the last step, tripadikaryam. Swasthana varge tripadikaryase prarambham kurmaha. Probably 3 or 4 more classes for tripadikaryam we will need, and then we will complete the entire discussion of the nishtha prakriya. So shwaha पुनरेकवारं अस्मिन्नेव समये वर्गः भविष्यति. परश्वः अभ्यास चर्चा नास्ति. So अभ्यास चर्चा will be there in the next week. समापयामः. अष्टाध्ये जगन्माता यस्य चित्तात् समुत्थिता वेदानाम् उपकाराय तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. शब्द ब्रह्म समाराध्य कृतवान्यो विलक्षणं सर्वाश्चर्यमिदं शास्त्रं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. येन धौता गिरः पुंसां विमलैः शब्दवारिभिः तमश्चाज्ञानजं भिन्नं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. धन्यवादः.